Our first case today is a little scary, but at the same time uplifting. It's an amazing story of how a boy in first grade saved his mom from a terrifying hostage situation. Our second case is about Curtis Dixon, whose inspiring viral moment almost got him killed by his own family. Let's dive in.
A man is in the Fayette County Jail accused of assaulting a woman throughout the night. The sheriff's office says he was arrested after the victim's child gave a bus driver a note that said, "Call 911."
Hi, I'm Katie Ring, and this is Crime House Daily, your weekday true crime companion. We follow the cases making headlines now, where justice is still unfolding. This is a first watch episode bringing you today's biggest crime stories. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Crime House Daily so you never miss an episode. This episode discusses active criminal cases and breaking news. The information we share is based on what's publicly available at the time of recording and may change as new evidence comes to light. We aim to inform, not to decide guilt or innocence. So everyone mentioned is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Before I get into today's main cases, I can officially say my spidey senses were once again spot on. If you follow me on social media, I always wait until more evidence comes out on a case before speculating. But when it came to Rebecca and Jake Haro's story about how someone came up behind her and said, "Hola," before hitting her and kidnapping their child Emmanuel, I immediately knew something was off with those two. Well, on October 16th, prosecutors in Riverside County announced that Emmanuel's father, Jake Haro, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, child assault, and filing a false kidnapping report. Jake's sentencing hearing is set for November 3rd, which is just a few days from now, so we'll be keeping a close eye on this case. The system already failed baby Emmanuel by giving Jake a suspended sentence and letting him out on probation after beating his first daughter so badly she suffered severe brain damage and is forever handicapped. He did this when she was 10 weeks old. If I was that judge, I don't think I could live with myself if I had made that decision and said, "I'm giving you a chance. Don't mess it up. Good luck." And now another child is dead because he didn't serve the sentence he deserved. Sadly, in these cases, I wish I wasn't right because authorities believe 7-month-old Emmanuel is now deceased, but his remains have not been found. Rebecca Haro, who also faces murder and false report charges, remains in jail on a $1 million bond. In the meantime, we're waiting to see what her next steps are. Our first case today features an incredible act of bravery in the face of terrifying circumstances. On September 24th, 2025, a woman in the small town of Westgate, Iowa, whose name has not been released by authorities, was held hostage in her own home. And the person who came to her rescue was her young child. Later that day, a 29-year-old man named Glenroy Miller was arrested on assault and kidnapping charges. Miller's case is currently making its way through the justice system, so there's still a lot of information that has yet to be released. But let's talk about what we know so far. Around 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday, September 24th, 2025, a first-grade student in Westgate, Iowa, boards his school bus. It's the same routine he does every day. Except today, he does something unexpected. When he climbs onto the bus, the child hands the driver a note. As he takes his seat, the driver reads what is scribbled on the paper, and it says, "Call 911." Wasting no time, the driver calls the police and gives them the boy's address. Shortly after the bus pulls out of the neighborhood, officers arrive at the doorstep, and a 29-year-old man named Glenroy Miller opens the door. He seems calm and isn't injured, which makes them immediately suspect that something has happened to the boy's mother, so they ask to speak with her. And as soon as they lay eyes on her, they realize why they are there. When the mother comes out of her bedroom, she's covered in bruises from head to toe, and the officers can tell the injuries are pretty fresh. It's also clear that the woman knows Glenroy, and he's not just a random attacker. So one of them keeps an eye on him while the other speaks with the woman alone. That's when authorities learn that Glenroy has been holding the woman hostage for hours. He assaulted her repeatedly throughout the night and threatened to kill her while holding her at knife point. At one point during the night, Glenroy noticed that the woman was badly hurt and considered taking her to the hospital. But as they walked to the car, he realized he could end up being arrested, so he forced her back inside the house. Finally, when morning came, the woman got her son ready for school just like always. But before he left, she slipped him a note to give to an adult as soon as possible. Now that she's finally safe, the woman is rushed to the hospital, where doctors find multiple serious injuries, including 2 broken ribs and a punctured lung, which could have been deadly, but fortunately she's going to pull through. Meanwhile, Glenroy is taken into custody. His charges include armed kidnapping, willful injury, domestic abuse, assault with the intent to inflict serious injuries, and obstruction of emergency communications. Personally, I'm not sure why attempted murder isn't being added to that, but that is a whole longer conversation itself. Authorities also learned that he's from the Bahamas and is now detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement on a $1,500 bond. Other than a prior arrest in March 2025 for possession of drug paraphernalia that was dismissed 2 months after he was arrested, police haven't revealed much more information about Glenroy or his exact relationship with the victim. But we have learned a little more about the woman herself. According to a Facebook post, she used to work as a restaurant manager. Those who know her say she has a heart of gold and that she's a wonderful mom to 3 kids, including a newborn. Her friends have created a GoFundMe to help her move forward from this awful experience and are hoping to raise money that will help her recover physically, emotionally, and mentally. I hope the children are also able to get help because witnessing that level of abuse as a child can have life-altering effects for kids, especially seeing that happen to your own mother. Glenroy's preliminary hearing was on October 8, 2025, and the case appears to be moving forward. We'll be keeping a close eye out for any important updates, and we'll bring you all of the major developments here. Today's second case is about an unexpected act of kindness that changed a man's life and nearly got him killed. On September 1st, 2025, a 61-year-old man named Curtis Dixon was ambushed, kidnapped, and left for dead in Detroit, Michigan. Dixon had recently come into some money after a video of him went viral. It was one of those feel-good videos where the creators wait for someone to help them, and they hand out a reward to the first person who does. Not gonna lie, this one was a tearjerker. If you're listening, you can also see the video on our YouTube channel at Crime House Daily. Let's check it out.
Thank you, bro.
Ready?
Yeah, 1, 2. Bless you, sir. Thank you.
You okay?
I'm okay, thank you.
Sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
Did you fall?
Yeah.
Do you need help? Where's your car at?
I got $1,000 cash for you, Curtis.
I love these videos, but I also always feel a little bad watching them because I'm a person who deep down wants to help people. But in my field, I have to be extra careful because I don't want anyone to Ted Bundy me. But unfortunately, what happened to Curtis next is sadly the exact reason why I have to keep my guard up. On top of the initial gift in the video, the creator, MD Motivator, set up a GoFundMe for Curtis, and everyone was so inspired by Curtis's selflessness. The video has over 60 million views and 7 million likes. But unfortunately, this put a target on his back, and allegedly one of the attackers was his own nephew. Like our last case, this one's still making its way through the courts. But here's what we know about the man at the center of all of this. On Thursday, August 15th, 2025, 61-year-old Curtis Dixon heads down to a pawn shop in a suburb outside of Detroit, Michigan. Outside of the shop, he spots a young man sitting on the ground. He's wearing dark sunglasses, an arm brace, and is also carrying a white mobility cane. When Curtis approaches, the influencer asks him to help him stand up. Of course, Curtis helps, and then he asks the man if he's okay and if he needs help. The man tells Curtis he's blind and that he fell down. Curtis tells him to stay put while he goes inside and finds a security guard to help him get home. When Curtis returns, the young man asks him why he helped him. Curtis replies, "God told me to help you." They start talking more, and the young man asks Curtis if he has a few dollars to spare. Curtis tells him he came to the shop to pawn his wedding ring because he needs money to turn his electricity back on. Despite all of this, he tells the man he'll give him a few dollars once he has the cash. 10 minutes later, Curtis makes good on his promise. He returns with $140 in cash and gives the man a few bills. This man is pawning his wedding ring to pay the electricity bill and is still willing to help someone else out. I hate that anyone tried to harm a hair on this gem of a human being's head. The content creator asks Curtis why he helped him when they don't even know each other, and Curtis says he doesn't have to know him to feel something for him. He then asks Curtis if he has enough money to pay his electric bill. Curtis says no, but it's okay, he'll find a way to get the rest. They make some more small talk, and Curtis talks about his wife of 13 years who he adores. Then, as Curtis is about to head on his way, the young man stops him and hands him the money back. Curtis is a little confused, and he becomes even more dumbfounded when the young man removes his sunglasses and sets down his cane and tells Curtis he's not really blind. If you aren't watching this on YouTube, my favorite part of the video is the look of shock on Curtis's face after he tells him he's not blind. It's almost like for a second, Curtis thought he had cured his eyesight. Then he asks him how many fingers he's holding up. Curtis is baffled and asks what's going on. So the man finally introduces himself. His name is Zachary Daranowski, Zach for short. He's a social media influencer, and he explains he was trying to find the first person to show him some kindness, and that his friend has been filming the entire encounter. At that point, Zach pulls out $1,000 in cash out of his pocket and hands it to Curtis. The gesture brings Curtis to tears. He gently takes the money and thanks Zach. Then he goes back into the pawn shop to buy his wedding ring back. Before they both leave, Curtis and Zach exchange information. And I'm guessing Curtis didn't expect much after that. But Zach has a plan. He posts the video, and millions are moved by Curtis's generosity and flood the comments asking how they can help Curtis even more. So Zach starts a GoFundMe and even contacts some corporate sponsors to ask them to contribute. The following week, Zach contacts Curtis and asks him to meet up at the spot where they first met. When Curtis arrives, his wife and 2 young grandchildren, who they take care of, are with him. Zach asks Curtis if he's paid his electric bill yet. Curtis says he has, but now he has to get new brakes for his car. But that he can't be without a car because he drives his grandkids everywhere. Curtis tells Zach he wouldn't trade that responsibility for the world. Zach tells him not to worry about it. He has something to help. He tells Curtis about the fundraisers, then he hands him $7,500 as well as the keys to a brand new GMC Yukon. Curtis is shocked and grateful. He falls to his knees with tears in his eyes. But that's still not all. When the SUV pulls up, Zach removes a bag from the trunk with $100,000 inside. It's all for Curtis and his family. Curtis is overwhelmed with emotion. He and Zach embrace and say they love each other. Then Curtis turns to his grandchildren and hugs them. He says his only goal in life is to be a good granddad so they can grow up and be the best they can be. Zach's gifts are life-changing for Curtis and his family. However, they don't realize that a sinister plot has been set in motion. 2 weeks after receiving Zach's gifts, Curtis decides to pay the kindness forward. But his act of generosity leads him down a tragic path. Early in the morning on September 1st, Curtis is backing his new SUV into a parking space near his home in southwest Detroit. Suddenly, a young woman approaches him and asks for a ride. She says she had her car taken away, and being the generous person Curtis is, he tells her to get in. The woman directs Curtis to a spot on the road called Filer Avenue. When he parks, another woman and a man suddenly appear by the driver's side window, and they have a gun. They demand money from Curtis and threaten to kill his wife if he doesn't do as they say. Curtis wants to protect his wife and himself, so he doesn't fight them. They open the car door, throw a shirt over his head, and then bind his hands and feet. They also take his cell phone, house keys, and 2 bank cards. One of the assailants then gets into the driver's seat and begins stopping at different ATMs around the city. At each location, they use Curtis's cards to withdraw cash. The entire time, a white Mazda follows them. When they're done hitting up the ATMs, the assailants drive to Curtis's house. At around 5 a.m., they leave Curtis tied up in the backseat of the Yukon while they break into his home. They're wearing masks and holding guns when they find Curtis's wife and demand she give them all of the money in the house. Curtis's wife tells them where they keep their safe, and the intruders take it. But before they leave, they tie her up. Despite being restrained, Curtis's wife is able to get to their neighbor's apartment and call the police, who quickly respond to the home invasion. Meanwhile, the assailants get back into the Yukon and drive back to Filer Avenue. Once there, they get out of the car with Curtis still tied up inside, and they set the car on fire before running away, leaving Curtis trapped alone and fighting for his life. On September 1st, 2025, 61-year-old Curtis Dixon was ambushed, assaulted, and left to fight for his life inside a burning SUV. Thankfully, witnesses noticed the fire and rushed to help Curtis. They're able to pull him out of the vehicle before calling 911. When first responders get there, Curtis is lying on the ground near the Yukon. He's quickly rushed to the hospital and begins his recovery. Meanwhile, federal investigators are looking into what happened. Because of the fire, the case falls under the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. ATF agents quickly begin working with other members of law enforcement to locate the people who attacked Curtis and his wife. When they speak with Curtis, he tells them that he saw a white Mazda parked nearby before the assailants covered his eyes. Investigators begin obtaining security footage from the route Curtis's kidnappers took, which they can trace via the path of the ATM withdrawals, and where the burning car was eventually found. Soon, they catch the Mazda on video and run the plates. It turns out it's a rental car, so investigators contact the rental agency, who provides a phone number for the person who leased it. And that phone number quickly reveals a digital trail, including cell phone location data, call records, and Cash App transactions, linking to a web of 5 co-conspirators. Their names are Alicia Doreen Lopez Martinez, Aisha Ann Stroman, Daniqua Janice Stroman, Kenneth Paul Anderson, and Roland Terrell Chapman. One of the first key revelations that investigators make has to do with Roland. It turns out Curtis is Roland's uncle. Curtis's wife and Roland's mother are sisters. From there, it's not hard to establish Roland as one of the masterminds behind the plot, because he discussed his plans over the phone with his brother, who's in prison, meaning all of their conversations were recorded. Gotta love it when criminals are idiots. Investigators pull the call records and learn that on August 20th, right after Curtis received the money and SUV from Zach, Roland called his brother and told him about what happened. Over the next few days, Roland discussed with his brother how he was in desperate need of cash. He seemed to float the idea of robbing his uncle, and his brother encouraged him. Their mom, Curtis's sister-in-law, was even on the line for one of those calls. On August 31st, Roland contacted a few friends and laid out his plan. Together, they decided that Alicia would lure Curtis, and Aisha and Daniqua would get into the Yukon with her, while Roland would follow them in a Mazda. When they were done and Curtis was left in the burning vehicle, all 4 of them drove to Kenneth's house. Finally, in the days following the incident, Roland called his brother and gave him a detailed rundown of how it all went. Phone records show that Kenneth received $4,400 from Curtis's Cash App account, before he then paid Aisha $3,400. Based on what Roland said to his brother about needing money, it's possible he owed Kenneth and Aisha. However, there's still a lot of money left unaccounted for. So on Friday, September 26, ATF agents raid the suspects' homes and hotel rooms. They recover the guns used in the robbery and various articles of clothing that they wore at the time of the crime, which they had been seen wearing on camera. At Roland's house, they also find drugs, including marijuana and crack cocaine. At Leisha's apartment, they find evidence that Roland stays at her place from time to time, although it's not clear exactly how they know each other. In Aisha and Daniqua's hotel room, investigators find coins in collector cases, which Curtis had described as being in the safe that was stolen from his home, and was later able to confirm as his stolen property. Finally, it's unclear if Daniqua is related to Curtis and Roland, but news sources think it's possible. All 5 suspects have been charged with conspiracy to commit kidnapping. If it was up to me, if you leave a person tied up in a car, set it on fire, and leave them there to die, you're catching murder charges. I don't care if a good Samaritan comes and saved his life. You left the scene believing you had killed your own uncle. I don't see how it's not charged that way. According to reports, Curtis Dixon is currently lying low at an undisclosed location while the case plays out. I'd love to send him and his wife a gift for their anniversary, though. Curtis may not want justice because comments have said that despite everything that his nephew allegedly did, he doesn't want him to go to jail. But again, he is a better person than me because if they are found guilty, I hope they serve nice, long sentences. Because if you're doing that to your own family, who knows what else you're capable of. Luckily, I don't think Curtis had access to most of the money at the time, so they didn't get very much, and I hope he and his wife can enjoy the reward he earned for his kindness. What did you think of today's cases? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments. See you next time. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Crime House Daily and follow us on social media at Crime House 24/7 for real-time updates, because the pursuit of justice never stops.